All right, everybody. How you doing? It's News Debate. I am Lee. We got a full house. We have Shannon, patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporter, joining us over on Twitter Spaces. Also, Patreon supporter, Apostate Nate, just a listener right now. Apostate Nate, we'd love to have you join us as a speaker if you are able to. And also over on Stereo, Patreon supporter Bjorn. We are live on Stereo, Twitter Spaces, rumble.com/user/NEWZ debate, and twitch.tv/NEWZ debate. My poll over on Stereo: Trump should fund with a D, pay for EBT/food stamps, or don't fund food stamps/EBT. It actually says don't find food stamps/EBT. I didn't realize had that autocorrect. Can't change the poll once it's started. It is what it is. All right, Bjorn, it has been a while since we've heard from you. Shannon also has returned home since being in the Beverly Hills rehab facility. She was actually in one in Connecticut. Had a health scare. She is back home. So, whoever wants to go first, Shannon or Bjorn, who's got a hot take? Who's got an update?
Hi, Lee.
How you doing,
How are
Shannon?
you?
How you feeling? I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
alive. I'm alive. My two male animals have forgiven me. My male dog and my male cat have forgiven me, but my female won't come near me. She hates me. I was gone too long. Females hold the
So,
red.
Shannon, yeah, well, dogs versus cats, pick or poison. We were chatting over on Twitter X via text message, and you let me know that you had been sent home because your request to your insurance had been denied to stay in the facility longer. So tell me about that process and how has it been adjusting to being home where you don't have people who can help you. We talked about the dangerous situation you were in where you had to file to stay longer. I think it was every week. And then if they denied
Yep,
it, you had a little bit of time to file an appeal. It
24
didn't
hours.
work out. So, yeah, 24 hours. Okay, I guess not too long. So, how did it happen and how are you doing?
Um, I'm doing okay. I mean, we were kind of at an impasse at the rehab, anyways, because I never saw a doctor ever. They had like the doctor that was prescribing the medication and stuff never saw me in the 6 weeks I was there. 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I don't know, but I never saw him. I saw an APRN who was in there every Thursday, and a wound doctor because I had a wound on my back. But no, they just I couldn't get much further there, and when my denial came in, I just didn't want to appeal it anymore because I had already appealed it 6 or 7 times. And I had COVID in between there. It was definitely not a place to get better.
And now that
Sorry,
you're
got a coffee.
home, yeah, no, go for it. Now that you're home without the people around you, even if you didn't see your doctor, there were people who came in and assisted you. Some good, some not
Yeah.
so good. Are you getting the care you need at home?
No. No. I'm gonna run out of medication soon. I have to. My doctor's appointment isn't until the middle of December, and my medication runs out probably midweek, end of the week. So, gotta figure out something there. But it won't matter if, soon I'll be choosing between food and medication or healthcare.
Okay,
'Cause
so
I'm
you're
on food
on
stamps.
EBT and you're not
Yeah.
getting your EBT this month.
No, I got it, but they want it back. That's why I put the story down below. Connecticut
Yeah, I saw
issued
it from
just
the
so
Guardian.
yeah.
I'll pull that up here in a bit. So I guess I'm not on EBT, so I didn't realize this. I thought that at first we had discussed on the previous show about a week ago, the Trump administration had forbid the use of the $5 billion emergency funds that apparently looked like were actually to use for something just like this. If there's a government shutdown, you'd use that money to try to continue EBT food stamps as long as possible. Then it went to the courts. I believe some courts said he couldn't stop the funding, but now I think it's gone to the Supreme Court. We'll get to all those details. But in the meantime, you were issued food stamp EBT money for November. Maybe Connecticut
Yesterday.
just did it. Some states said they were going to do it even if they weren't receiving
California
money
did
from
it.
the
Connecticut
government.
did it. Yeah, California did it. Connecticut did it. As soon as that ruling came in that they couldn't block food stamps, but before they went to the Supreme Court, a lot of the blue states were jumping on it and issued all the full benefits. And then the Supreme Court said, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to send them out. So now they want it back.
From my cold, dead hands. Right?
Yep. That's exactly what they want to do. And I guess there's a lot of issues with taking back funding that's already been dispersed, like legally.
Yeah, I feel like once
So
you
some
got it,
people
even if
got,
it was a mistake.
yeah, some people, I mean, I know like if they overpay me, they can not pay me for like the next month, but they can't take back what they've already given.
Oh, that's interesting. So if the Supreme Court just hypothetically decides that Trump can withhold food benefits EBT, and a state like Connecticut or a state like California issued it anyways without having the money, but they used other money to pay for it, I wonder if they would just not, if they would take that out of the next payment, so not give you the payment for December. Yeah, that's a lot of ifs. Okay, so Shannon, stay with us. I want to hear more about this. Shannon's on EBT. She got her aid, luckily, so that's awesome. But it's not the end of the story. Apostate Nate has joined us as a speaker over on Twitter Spaces, so I'm excited to hear from him as always. Also, we have Bjorn over on Stereo. Leave us some voice messages if you're a listener on Stereo. Bjorn's our co-host. I want to just read here really quickly from this Guardian article. I think is slightly more updated than this one I have from the BBC, so I'll go ahead and bring this up. Thank you, Shannon. Does my work for me. What's not to like?
Nate has his hand up though, Nate. Lee.
Yeah. No, I see that. I want to get to that, but I want to get to these details here really quickly rather than just kind of talking in generalities. So, okay, the Guardian asked me to stop using an ad blocker, and I clicked no. So, we're going to use the ad blocker over on the Guardian. So, really quickly here. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, is directing states to immediately undo any steps that have been taken to send out full food aid benefits to low-income Americans following a Supreme Court order on Friday that temporarily halted a lower court order requiring those payments. The new USDA directive, issued in a memo today, or rather yesterday, followed a Supreme Court order granting the Trump administration's emergency request to pause an order for the USDA to provide full SNAP benefits during the ongoing government shutdown, which is now in its 40th day. The lower court ruling, which now has been halted by the Supreme Court, ordered the Trump administration to fully fund the SNAP program for November by Friday, rather than issuing only partial benefits. The ruling led to some of the roughly 42 million Americans like Shannon enrolled in SNAP, commonly known as food stamps, to begin receiving their full benefits on Friday from the states, which issue the payments of federal dollars. So whether or not states just went ahead and did it and they were like, we'll figure out the money later, or money was actually issued on Friday because of that lower court ruling, one of those is the answer, maybe a little bit of both. But on Friday night, The program was thrown into chaos again when the Supreme Court agreed to temporarily pause the order to allow an appeals court to review the Trump appeal. So now the USDA has issued this directive from a memo that any payments that had been made under the prior orders are considered unauthorized. Failure to comply with this memorandum may result in USDA taking various actions, including cancellation of the federal share of state administration costs and holding states liable for any overissuances that result from the non-compliance. Yeah, all those overissuances that have gone to Shannon. Dirty, money hungry eater, you. How dare you want to eat? Okay, so those are the facts. Really quickly, let's jump to Bjorn, then we'll jump to Apostate Nate. Bjorn, do you want to throw in and say hello? How are you doing?
Great. How are you? It's been a fun-packed weekend. My birthday is this weekend, so that's exciting. And yeah, good time.
What do you think about SNAP? You work in
in
healthcare, right?
Yes, I'm a generic healthcare worker, and clearly, like food is one of the basic, social determinants of health. Meaning, there are a lot of things outside of like what your diagnosis is. Like you've got diabetes, but what is the real like reason you have an illness? Um, and it might be not only just like your genetics, but it might also be like the place where you live, or the food, or the things that are around that. And clearly, like food is one of the most important things. Obviously, it's kind of a very basic point. I think to me, what's interesting and like bizarre about this whole EBT thing is that the Trump administration, drew this line in the sand that said we're gonna we're gonna withhold EBT from folks due to the government shutdown, something that no other president has done ever, including himself in the previous shutdown, as some sort of like line to try to force Democrats to make a decision. It's clearly a political move. What's wild is that when the court ruled against him and said, no, you have to do this thing. So he had political cover from the court where he could have said, oh, great, well, we tried this thing, but the court said we had to do it. Those darn judges, they're so bad. But instead of leaving it there, they're appealing it. They're appealing it up the chain. They're appealing to the circuit and eventually to the Supreme Court. And so in this like bizarro land where, they had the political cover, they just kind of bashed right through that. Now they're just like looking like the evil empire. And in addition, when there was the at least the way that the different states interpreted that and started issuing the money, in addition to that, like last night, he decides that he's just going to undo everything the states have done. And so it's just like a complete withdrawal of that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. He had like plausible deniability. He's like, I didn't want this to happen. But well, look at this. The court said I must. And it would have been a signal that Trump cares enough to stop fighting. And he's like, all right, well, that's what the court said. What am I going to do? And he totally could have done that. It's Trump. He can do anything. And it would have given a reason for poor Republicans to be like, look at that. See, Trump cares about you and I, right? But instead, now they're going to the Supreme Court. Yeah, that's a really good analysis. Thank you for that, Bjorn. So over on Stereo, actually, it's about 50-50. Should Trump fund EBT or don't fund food stamps / EBT? It's actually right now just at 50-50. So vote more in the poll. Leave us voice messages. We'll hear more from Bjorn. We'll hear more from Shannon. But I want to say hi to Apostate Nate. Apostate Nate, say hello. What do you think about food stamps?
I can't imagine going through the stress of having my food assistance taken away from me amidst a political circus. Then I get benefits, and then as soon as I get them, I have a governmental body asking for them essentially back. Look, I'm an English teacher, okay, and if I make a mistake mathematically in the student's favor, a lot of times I just chalk that up to me being a dum dum. And if I've left that mistake sit for a long time, I'm just like, okay, you got it. Like I gave it away. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
I know
one's
that money
gonna
and
be
points aren't
okay
the
with the
same thing, but
professor
my
giving
God,
you a 90.
we're
One
talking about
second, sorry.
benefits
No
that might
one's
be
going to
spent
be
right
happy.
away.
Oh, I wonder if you can hear me over there. Sorry, this happens sometimes. Okay, thank God he can hear me. Last show, they couldn't hear me and I had to kill the show and start it up again. Sorry. Yeah, just to your point, Apostate Nate, and then please continue. No one wants to get a 95 and then find out, oh, sorry, that was an error. You got an 85 or even a 90, right? Like, I would fight that and I would say, look, like you gave me this grade, and as Apostate Nate pointed out, it sat for a while. So, like, this is the grade I get. So, the point you're making, I think, makes logical sense. If you give people food benefits and not what Shannon mentioned a moment ago, as in it was an overpayment, you got more than you would normally get for the month of November. If you get the food payments to then issue a memo from the USDA saying, oh, no, you got to stop doing that, and then maybe take that back. That is the person's down on the ground. Please, sir, I'd like some more. Like, I'm hungry. And then you're kicking them in the crotch. Yeah.
And,
Well
and,
made
and
point,
while
Apostle.
all this is
Please continue.
happening, Lee, the president is using his discretionary money to build a dance hall. And I understand those are two different sources of funding, but boy, if that doesn't look like Marie Antoinette in 2025, I don't know what does.
President Trump also had like a Great Gatsby. Was it a Halloween party or something? Like, that was a real thing. So yeah, building the giant new ballroom after demolishing the east wing of the White House, and we talked about that. I don't care. I think the ballroom is actually a good idea, but the way they went about it, terrible, terrible, terrible.
Their
Um,
ballroom is not a good idea. You probably don't remember, Lee. I mean, they have a ballroom. I mean, the biggest thing was when Princess Diana came to the White House and she danced with like Travolta and Reagan, and I mean, they used the portico for it, but there's a reason why we don't have a
I remember
ballroom or
seeing
gilded
that
gold
movie.
like
I
is added
think
to
it was called
everything.
Saturday Night Fever, right? Yeah, I remember that movie. That was a great movie. No, I mean, if you look at the facts, they used to have bigger parties. We'll get to the ballroom in a bit. If you look at the total history of the White House, because of security and just occupancy concerns that have gotten better with time, they used to have huge parties. They can't have huge parties anymore. That's why I'm in favor of the ballroom. I think they should be able to have huge parties. But let's go back to Apostate Nate. I think Apostate Nate, you had a little bit more, and then we'll just jump around.
I think I had more or less landed. Lee, I did want to be fair about my analogy and say that, when I accidentally give students more points than they've earned, that's not quite the same thing as giving someone more dollars. Without, because I mean, a point is a point, a dollar is a dollar. We're trading in two different things here. But I think we're on the same page here in the sense that once you give something, especially something like that, I mean, you're coming dangerously close to literally taking like popsicles out of the hands of babies. At that point, I just don't know what our species is doing.
Well, not popsicles, because gosh dang it, they're starting to issue. I think it's state by state. They're starting to say you can't buy certain things. I don't know. It'd be like a banana from a baby. Yeah, I think a baby could eat a banana. Yeah. All right. Really quickly, Bjorn posted this over on my Discord server. Join Discord for free by going to bit.ly/NEWZ debate. This is a timeline of the legal saga surrounding SNAP benefits from the New York Times. I'm sharing this on my Twitch and Rumble video streams. All those links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. The Supreme Court late Friday temporarily allowed the Trump administration to continue to withhold some funding for food stamps, the nation's largest anti-hunger program, in the latest twist in a dizzying legal battle with great stakes for millions of low-income Americans. Wow, the order came from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Wow, okay, that's surprising. At least for now. It stops the directive of a lower court judge who had ordered the Trump administration to fully fund benefits under the SNAP program. The matter now rests in the hands of a federal appeals court. Oh, okay. So the Supreme Court said, okay, stop. We're going to let them take a look at this, but we're not going to do it. It's a federal appeals court, which is considering whether to maintain the pause, known as a stay, or allow the lower court judge's order that ordered that SNAP would be paid for November to take effect. The appeals court is expected to rule quickly. In the meantime, states have struggled to interpret a series of conflicting rulings and changing developments, which by yesterday appeared to further disrupt food stamp benefits for some of the roughly 1 in 8 Americans. Let's pause for a moment. Let's have our own stay here. 1 in 8 Americans who receive SNAP benefits. Here's a timeline. On October 1st, the government shutdown begins. The closure did not immediately affect SNAP because it had already, I guess, been in play for October. And it was able to benefits for that month. On October 24th, the Trump administration informed states it would not tap a reserve, this is what I mentioned earlier, of about $5 billion to provide even partial benefits for SNAP recipients, which normally costs about $8 billion a month. The decision by the Agriculture Department marked a reversal from the agency's own public guidance issued earlier, which said it would use the contingency funds to sustain the food stamp program. So once again, this was something Trump ordered, and then the Agriculture Department was like, all right, I guess you're the president, we got to do it. But it was a complete reversal of the previous stance, as well as what the money is. 24 states sued the Trump administration over its refusal to continue to fund SNAP. These states included, wow, I'm surprised, Arizona. Okay, that's a red state. California, Massachusetts. Okay, blue. And they asked a federal judge in Boston to order the Agriculture Department to restart funding to avoid benefit cuts in November. On October 30th, a second coalition of cities, religious groups, and other nonprofits sued the Trump administration in federal court in Rhode Island. They raised some of the same issues. The Trump administration at that time staunchly defended its decision to halt SNAP funds. The government had even acknowledged ahead of the hearing that it had plenty of funds available in 2 accounts to pay, but it didn't want to. An emergency fund for SNAP and a second reserve filled primarily with tariff revenue. Hey, all that money that Trump's been making, could he use that? But the Trump administration said it faced legal, technical, budgetary constraints that prevented it from transferring the money. Yes, Shannon.
Lee, you're rubber banding a little, my friend.
Was that Shannon? Or was that? I don't know who that was.
That was Nate, but you are rubber banding.
Oh, over on Twitter. It's not working so well. How's it sound now?
Seems better. How about you, Nate? You hear him better? Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
what I was going to say was, you realize
work,
it. No,
I'll kill Twitter and start it up again. Continue, Shannon.
you said Arizona, but Arizona has a Democratic governor, so that's why they Kitty Hobbs.
Okay, so even though Arizona is Arizona, thank you very much, smarter than me, they have a Democrat in the governor's mansion. Okay, and that was the decision. So thank you for the context there. Then on October 31st, a judge of the U.S. District Court for Rhode Island, mighty Rhode Island, ruled against the Trump administration. Siding with cities and nonprofits, he said the government had to tap emergency money for SNAP and consider using a group of funds, largely comprising tariff revenue, to pay benefits quickly. On November 1st, in a written version of his earlier ruling, the judge gave the administration a choice. It could make full or partial SNAP payments that week to alleviate irreparable harm facing food stamp recipients, But no matter which option it chose and which funding source it used, the judge ordered the government to act with haste and during that week. On November 3rd, the administration revealed in a set of court filings rather, that it would send partial payments to SNAP recipients. Initially, the government said that eligible households could receive about half, and it warned that those benefits could be severely delayed. And it was later revealed that some families would receive no aid at all in November. On November 4th, President Trump threatened on social media to defy the federal court order, saying that SNAP benefits will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do, and not before. On November 6th, the same federal judge in the great state of Rhode Island, tiny but great, ordered that food stamps must be paid in full by November 7th. Then the next day, on the 7th, to force the president to fund SNAP payments. Then, later that night, Justice Jackson temporarily halted the Rhode Island court's order to give the appeals court additional time to weigh elements of the case, but states including New York, Kansas, Pennsylvania, and Oregon had already started to release full benefits. Administrative stay would affect the payments. Now, we get to yesterday, November 8th. One day after the ruling, many states struggled to sort through the confusion. Some states had to delay their plans to provide full SNAP benefits, while some food stamp recipients experienced trouble using their benefits to buy groceries. In late night guidance, this is where we are now. The Trump administration told states it must undo the work to provide full SNAP payments to low-income families, and it threatened financial penalties on states that did not comply. All right, so that's where we are now. It's been a long road, but we finally arrived. Some states have issued full or some kind of SNAP benefits for November. The Trump administration is saying you have to undo that, and there will be penalties if you did, or if you can't undo somewhere in there. It's kind of confusing. So now we literally have a president who prevented, as best he could, the use of funds that were designed to be used for this purpose, to fund food assistance, SNAP benefits, EBT benefits, to 1 in 8 Americans while the government was shut down. Luckily, it had already gone out for October, but this would be for November because we're at like 40 days for the government shutdown. The court system said, no, you have to fund SNAP benefits. And then eventually the Supreme Court ordered a stay, and they're figuring out what's going on. On top of that, with about the last 24 hours or so, the Trump administration is now threatening states, saying you have to undo any SNAP benefits you have sent out. And the reason, I guess, that I can grab from all of this is that no SNAP benefits will be given out until those radical left Democrats open up the government, which they can easily do, according to Trump, and not before that happens. Okay, if you want to throw in over on Twitter Spaces, raise your hand. That'll let me know you want to talk. Request to speak. I see we have a request to speak. Bjorn, you can just start talking because you can't raise your hand over on stereo. It looks like you have something to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the Ketanji Brown ruling, which again, I don't fully understand. From what I understand is that this was not an ideological thing. It was basically a procedural move that basically is almost automatic, that basically any judge would have done in that scenario. However, one thing that she did, which was a little bit different, is she put a timeline on it, because she put in the stay order something basically get this done in 48 hours, or from this stay, you need to figure this out very quickly, which is not normal. So this was kind of a procedural thing that she added a little flourish on, to say this is needs to be figured out post haste. I think it was basically just to try to reduce chaos, because it was like they were having back and forth about like, hey, funding, no funding, funding, no funding. And she's just like, okay, you have 48 hours to figure this out. Get your shit together.
Yeah, that makes sense. So thank you for that context. You hope, you don't always get it, but you hope that those in power on the court side of things, the judiciary, they will follow procedural rules, even if it's something that in the end they don't want to have happen. I'm guessing Justice Jackson would want to fund food stamps, going out on a limb here, but doing the right thing according to the procedure. We have Kick over on Stereo, or rather on Twitter Spaces, who is requesting to speak. We'll get to you in a moment. Stay with us, Kick, but I want to check in with fake AI President Trump. Mr. Trump, Mr. President, you have asked the Supreme Court to let you not fund SNAP. You are threatening states that have already tried to fund SNAP, now here already into November 9th. Why do you not want to fund SNAP? And why are you asking the Supreme Court or other courts? I'm sorry, it's a little confusing, Mr. President, to allow you to not provide food aid to 1 in 8 Americans.
I asked the Supreme Court to allow me to not fund SNAP because I believe that the government should not be forced to fund a program that is not essential to the functioning of the country. I am doing everything in my power to find a solution to the shutdown, but I cannot continue to fund programs that are not necessary.
All right, you hear that, Shannon? Your food is not necessary.
You're right. I just need medicine.
That's right. You need food and medicine. Yeah, you're in a tough spot.
I know. I'm
so
being
we hope
demanding.
everything's gonna pull through. Always just taking that, Shannon.
That's it. That's me. Taking. To get Twinkies and soda or something.
Yeah, that's a whole other component of this that we've talked about earlier. Was it Nebraska was the first state to further limit, because there are limits what you can buy with EBT. Cigarettes and lottery tickets, please. No, you can't do that. There are limits, but I believe it was Nebraska and maybe some other states have followed. Yep. And like no hot food. We talked about like Costco chickens.
And nothing that's a supplement. So no vitamins, no teas with chamomile or certain formulas. It depends on the formula and the nutritional facts if you could actually get it.
I brought Kick up.
Vitamins,
I accepted the request for Kick to speak over on Twitter Spaces, but I think they just left, so my apologies there. What were you saying, Shannon?
You can't get vitamins or supplements either, but you could, depending on how they're coded at the grocery store, so it's kind of a guess. Like you can get Ensure, but you can't get a protein powder. So it's very weird. No vitamins.
Now remind me, is Ensure targeted towards older adults to get their vitamins? It's like a chocolate drink.
Yeah. They have all different flavors, but yeah. But you can't get like a protein powder, or depends on, if they have certain supplemental stuff in it, you can't get it. So, but certain supplemental stuff is okay, like Ensure. But it's weird.
I think Ensure has like a higher, like a more broad vitamin profile in it, Shannon, than like some protein powders. That might be the I don't know. I mean, I think the some of the limits they put on SNAP are silly. Although obviously, like cigarettes and lottery tickets, like you can't eat those, so that makes sense to me.
Right, no household goods either, or period products, or toilet paper, shampoo.
Oh, no feminine hygiene products. Interesting.
Nope.
Okay. I guess it's not
Only
food, so useful, but food. Okay. Just wait till Ensure comes out with the new ivermectin flavor, and then that might get taken off as well. Yeah. Looks like Web3. You have requested to speak. I've added you as a speaker over on Twitter Spaces. What's on your mind, Web3?
Nothing. I saw possibly Nate here and you, which I know you from stereo. And so yeah, I just had to come up and say hi.
Wow, great. That's awesome. You know me from stereo. I've been on stereo for several years. I left for a time, like many stereo people, and I came crawling back, like many stereo people. So Web3, we're talking food stamps right now. It's a hot take show, so we can go in many different directions. But we're on the topic of food stamps. I've read a lot from the Guardian as well as the New York Times, giving us kind of an update on where we are now. Trump is telling states they have to undo any food stamps they've sent out. The Supreme Court has granted a stay. I believe Bjorn pointed out it was 48 hours, so try to get this done very quickly. And then a lower federal court. Now, I believe the ball is in their court. See what I did? And they are going to decide what's going to happen here. But then maybe it'll be shot back up to the Supreme Court and it will be delayed even later. The government has $5 billion that they can spend. It's not enough, but it's more than half. The bill for a month of SNAP is about $8 billion. They have $5 billion. The government also has money from Trump tariffs that they could use to fund this. So if the president wanted to, the $5 billion is supposed to fund SNAP during a shutdown. That's one of the functions that it can be used for. And then they have other tariff money. So if he wanted to, he could snap his fingers and say, okay, we're funding SNAP this month. It's already November 9th, so it's late. Do you think that people, 1 in 8 Americans, should receive SNAP benefits here in the month of November with those two funding mechanisms that the president has at his order to use, or do you support not funding SNAP Web3?
I mean, I support making sure that people get fed. Uh, I'm more curious about why it's not happening. So I don't see a case against Trump not just doing it. Uh, well, I mean, I don't see him a case for him just not doing it. So that doesn't it doesn't make sense to me. But from my angle, I'm taking a full step back and just watching things happen and try to help out the community because depending your whole life on federal funding or any source of funding is bound to uh, cause you to fail, especially this administration. Especially this administration.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. It's kind of all we have, but at the same time, this administration, point taken. But just in general, we've had government shutdowns before. We have very limited help that's available for anyone in the country, especially those who need it the most. So, yeah, okay. You can't really depend on that. Maybe most of the time you can. Shannon, I believe, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, you have gotten your EBT on time and you're able to use it. But we are the
It wasn't
one
on
out
time.
there. No,
It
but
wasn't
in
on time.
general,
Mine were due
like,
the first.
but usually month to month you get your EBT.
On the first.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
this
but it
was a
didn't
little
come
bit
in until
late.
Friday
Yeah.
afternoon.
But to maybe hit home this point a little harder, we are the outlier. We are the one advanced nation. In fact, we're the richest nation in the world, and we fund social services the least. I mean, there are like developing countries that have some social services, at least in theory, that we don't have here. We are the outlier. So, yeah, I would agree. It's hard to depend on the few social services we have when they're so small compared to other countries. And in other countries, when they have a quote unquote government shutdown, we've talked about this on the show previously. I believe generally the government continues to function using previous standards for funding until the new standards can be agreed on and implemented. So rather than a shutdown, it's like, okay, We're just going to continue with the previous amounts until we figure out the new amounts. Our situation is quite different than that.
Yeah,
And you can I'm sorry, yeah, Web3.
yeah. So it all seems intentional. Like it's different when we've made a mistake and like whoops, we forgot to think about these people. Let's figure out something for these people. But this is kind of different. It's like, no, forget those people. Uh, we're gonna ignore them for now because we're gonna redirect funding to these other people. So I'm not sure where the mind is right now with regards to federal expenses, but uh, I don't think that Trump wants to use any of the money to help certain people. Even with the tariffs, like that hurts small businesses because it's not like small businesses, they actually have to pay to import things, and so some of them couldn't afford it, and then they had to go out of business, and so it it increased tax.
Well, yeah, I don't know about any specific numbers, but the tariffs have hurt businesses, both small and large, in increased costs once the tariffs were kind of settled. I think even once they were settled, there was some fine tuning. You can read about that. But once they were more or less settled, and those were different timelines with different countries, prices go up. I mean, that's the point of the tariff talk. And I got to agree. I think we've been getting the short end of the stick with our allies on so many different issues. I was very open to increasing tariffs. And I think the way Trump went about it was just terrible, like most things he does. And so that's the other component. Prices are going up, have gone up, but the uncertainty leading up to those actual tariffs being implemented and now being on the books, and now that we are bringing in money from them, that arguably was even worse because you can't project into the future, which is what businesses have to do to survive, small, medium, and the largest businesses that operate in the United States. Something else you mentioned, Web3, I think you said like take money from these people and give it to other people. um, that might be something that Trump does. Like Republicans in general want to give money to the richest people. Democrats also want to do that. That's the problem with my team, but a little less than Republicans. But specifically here with EBT, food stamps, SNAP, it's just sitting in a bank account. It is not going to someone else in this instance. It's just we don't want to pay it. And so the Trump administration, time and time again over the last month and 2 weeks, whatever it is, has fought using money that is designed to be used in this way. And as Bjorn pointed out near the top of the show, Trump had an easy way out. When the courts decided here a few days ago, whatever it was, that he had to fund SNAP for November, he could have said, hey, I tried not to fund it, but the courts said I have to. Here's your food money. And it would have been a win-win for him in theory, because he would have shown poor Republicans, and there's a lot of poor Republicans, unfortunately, in my view, that, okay, hey, I'm helping you out. But he also would have had, I'm not going back on what I've been fighting for because, well, the courts are just saying I have to do it. It's not something that I want to do. Over on Twitter Spaces, raise your hand so that we are not speaking over each other. And once again, I'm going to go with my Patreon supporters first. Really appreciate my Patreon supporters, patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Right with us now over on Twitter Spaces, we have Shannon, Apostate Nate. We also have Bjorn, Patreon supporter, over on Stereo. Want to give a shout out to my other Patreon supporters, Better Vibes, Lola, Sneaky Elbow, MC Funk, and Ron. Yeah, Noble Ron. Patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Bjorn, if you want to throw in, as you know, you can't raise your hand on stereo, so just go ahead and start talking and I'll stop talking.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out is like, trying to think, clearly like all of us, well, most of us are frustrated by this EBT debacle and like the question of like, what do we do as communities? And I think a lot of people are donating more to food banks. I took my kids to the food bank this week, and we went to Walmart and bought a bunch of food and donated to the Oregon Food Bank. And we're seeing this sort of behavior all over, but we're also seeing like food banks and the folks that are going there, increasing, multiple folds. I just saw like a photo of someone in a line, and lines and lines and lines waiting for food at like food pantries, and it's wild to me that like the bread lines from like the Great Depression are back, and it's entirely like self-created problem that doesn't necessarily need to be here. And the fact that like we're using like the poorest of the poor and children as a lever for political action is just really, really sad. So I encourage everyone to donate to your food banks and money and food and whatever else.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. Good on you, Bjorn. That's awesome to hear that you donated and brought your kids down to the food bank. It's a good educational lesson, but knowing you and your wife, I'm sure that they receive those sort of lessons on the regular. Great parents over there. But it's like you said, it's helpful. But if you have this increased need, I'm guessing the need is going to be larger than the good people like the Bjorn family doing the good work. But that's kind of the crutch that we have in the United States. To the point made by Web3 earlier, we often can't depend on the government for much compared to every other developed nation, let alone the richest nation in the world, which is the good old US of A. So you have to rely on church organizations. I'm an atheist. I often put them down, but they do a lot of this good work. Non-aligned food pantries. I don't want to throw the non-religious food pantries under the bus too, but a lot of that does come often from religion, and that's a lot of good work, and we should all recognize that. So anybody who's trying to feed 1 in 8 Americans right now, that's awesome. That's great. It's probably not going to be enough. Really quickly, let's go over to stereo and get to some messages so they don't sit for too long. Let's hear from Freak Co. Oh, Freak Co Santana. What a name. Let's hear from, we'll call him Santana over on stereo.
Hey, the question I gotta ask, how y'all doing first and foremost? All love and respect to everybody. It's crazy that the SNAP benefits and the EBT and the food stamps and stuff like that is being held back. But we sending more money to other countries.
Yeah, that's the other bad part of this is that while the Trump administration doesn't want to pay food stamps, was it Argentina or something? I mean, they're announcing that billions of dollars are going to foreign countries. I'm just sick and tired of all of it. So I would say America first. I don't think it sounds crazy. American money should be spent on Americans here because there's so much need here compared to every other advanced nation. And that would bleed over to military and everything else. Like, I'm sorry, Ukraine. I definitely favor you in the war of aggression from Russia that's been going on for even longer than this specific war that I'm referring to. But Europe is really rich, and they should be taking care of this. No aid to Ukraine. No aid to anybody. I was for the dismantling of USAID. I'm a Democrat. I was for it. It doesn't mean that money goes to the U.S., and I realize it's not an apples to apples comparison, but stop the aid everywhere and do more aid here. The Trump administration has done a lot to stop the aid everywhere, even though they're giving billions to countries that they just announced, but they're not embracing the let's help people here part of that. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite. So an excellent point. Thank you for that. Let's hear again from Santana over on stereo.
Hey, no type of way, but most of the people that voted for him are poor Republicans. I hate to say it like that, but yeah, the numbers does say that. Yeah, and now a lot of them are looking at situations like, damn, I voted for him and he's doing this to me. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know about the most part. We have to look at what Republican slash Trump support is right now. But certainly quite a lot of poor people in the United States are conservative, identify as Republican. And it's a damn shame because what was the book that came out several decades ago? What's Wrong with Kansas? People vote against their own interests in the South in red states. And unfortunately, that's about as American as apple pie. Um, Shannon just tweeted this. This is interesting, Shannon. I'm going to bring this up. This is from The Guardian. You're on a Guardian tear today. The collective
They don't charge a
wealth.
paywall.
Oh,
They don't
no.
charge a paywall.
Here we are. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, they had a thing that said sign in, but all I had to do was click the X. So there's no paywall here. The collective wealth of the top 10 US billionaires has soared by 698 billion in the past year, according to a new report from Oxfam America. The report warns that Trump administration policies risk driving US inequality to new heights, but points out that both Republican and Democratic administrations have exacerbated the U.S. growing wealth gap. Once again, it's the Democrats and the Republicans because rich people give to both parties, but the Republicans, they're worse. Using Federal Reserve data, researchers also calculated that the top 1% of households gained 101 times more wealth than the median household during that same time span, and 987 times the wealth of a household at the bottom 20th percentile of income. So it's actually, if you're in the bottom 20th, it's not quite as bad. It's way worse. Look at me in math. So if you're in the median household range, it's 101 times more money. But if you're in the bottom 20th percentile, so the people who need SNAP the most, 997 times the wealth. And once again, this is the top 1% of households, gained 101 times more than the median household, 987 times the bottom 20th percentile. Can't talk. Meanwhile, over 40% of the U.S. population, including nearly 50% of children, are considered low income, with family earnings that are less than 200% of the national poverty line. Oh, and then Shannon has tweeted a screenshot here. States with the highest SNAP participation rates as of November 2022. A lot of this data lags, several years behind. New Mexico, 24%, more than 24% of New Mexicans in November of 2022, 3 years ago, were participating in the SNAP program. Louisiana is about 20%, West Virginia 18%, Oklahoma 17%. Hey, Oregon 17%. That's surprising to me. Illinois 16%, Alabama 15%, Massachusetts, surprising, 15%, Nevada 15%, and North Carolina 15%. Thank you for that, Shannon. Okay, Web3, your hand has been up. You've been waiting patiently. We also have some more messages over on stereo we'll get to, but Web3, what do you want to add here?
Sure, sure. This will be my last thing. But uh, what I see is happening is that Trump, as a gambler, I would say that he is gambling with the poor right now, and I I don't think he has an interest at all with regards to what happens to the poor. Um, I also think that he is still in some incredible amount of debt. And oftentimes, when you're a debtor, you end up serving your creditors. Um, it may not look like debt on paper, but it does something to your mind as well, where you're not really thinking about those that aren't able to sustain your living. So, whoever he owes that's who the rules that he follows, and so everyone else, you know, I don't know, propping up Trump as their savior, isn't realizing that they're more or less being sacrificed, you know, for whatever reason. And so the narrative will continue to go blame Democrats, but then even if there's a Republican that isn't aligned with Trump, blame that guy as well. And then it's the merry-go-round of who's against him, and frankly, who's not for him. And I say it like that because uh, he's thinking about himself naturally and trying to remain out of jail and all this other stuff. Who wouldn't? Uh, but then also he has promises that he has to keep.
Well,
Uh,
I don't know that he's going to go to jail for anything. I mean, if anything, he's beaten everything he's ever been charged with, aside from what happened in Manhattan, where he was at 34, 35 felonies, basically all stemming from the same thing. And we've talked about that on the show. I think that was a political hit job. The statute of limitations ran out. The previous DA said they weren't going to pursue it. And then the new DA ran under the I'm going to prosecute Trump. So we don't have to go there, but I would call that a political hit job. He's not going to go to jail for anything. But to go back to your previous comment, Web3, at the beginning of what you were just saying, you're talking about like political debt. He got elected, people supported him financially or however else, and you think that he's repaying them by not paying food stamps.
I think that his focus is more about keeping them happy as opposed to keeping the rest of the populace happy. But even to the extent that, like, if he could blame this on the Democrats as well, uh, he would. So
Well, he is. He
he
said no food
there we go.
stamp SNAP benefits until the Democrats end this government shutdown, which they can do at any time. I am a lifelong Democrat, and I got to say he has a point. I think we should fund SNAP, and I think he clearly just doesn't want to. But I think the Democrats are to blame for the government shutdown. They're the stinkers. They're the minority that's holding up the majority that wants to pass, their version of government spending. And I think the Democrats do have a horse in the blame game race. Do you disagree?
No, I don't. And that's the trick, is that in this circle of blame, everybody is exhausted and confused, and he just goes does what he does. Um, but that's the trick. I get all you guys to fight each other and blame each other and all that, and just toss that in the arena and let you guys squabble, um, while I go, take care of who I need to take care of. So he's doing well. He's playing this game well.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the comment, Webb. You can stay up as a speaker. Just great. Yeah, no, this Trump, he's a better. I'm not saying he's a good president. I'm going to say his skills, everything that we know about Trump, the way he talks, the way he treats people, the way he throws his allies under the bus so they're scared that they'll be next. I think that's much more effective as a president than it is as a businessman. He was not super successful. He went bankrupt multiple times, if I recall correctly. I think what he brings to the table is much more effective in the political sphere than the business sphere. So thank you for the comments. Raise your hand if you have something else. Ooh, this is interesting. I'm going to pull this up from Shannon.
I
Just tweeted that. Thanks for the article, Shannon. Keep them coming.
actually
What were you going to say, Shannon?
I don't blame the Democrats at all. I'm actually glad they're holding out for the whole medical thing. Because for me, it's a choice between medical and food. And if I got to pay 600, or I'm sorry, what was it? What did I get quoted? Like 260 extra a month. And no SNAP benefits. I'd be in dire straits. Or I will be in dire straits. I'm surprised that the Democrats have had this backbone to stand up this long.
So yeah, you support the Democrats keeping the government shut down because if you have to pay more, yeah. But if I understand correctly, you're saying that the good they're trying to do to continue the subsidies for medical care is worth the pain of you've got your food benefits, but if you don't get them in December, or you have to give them back, whatever the situation is. You're saying it's better to fight the fight that Democrats are continuing to try to pull off than to
Yes.
just fund the government and then everyone gets late, but they get SNAP benefits for November and the foreseeable future.
Well, they said that
Fair. You know,
they're
I'm not on
late, they
SNAP
don't have to pay
benefits,
back
so
benefits. They don't have to pay back. Well, I mean, they were arguing that they shouldn't have to pay back benefits, the government, Trump's legal team, if it goes past, into December. So people might not get anything for November. I got it for November, but other people
oh,
might
I see
not.
what you mean.
Not
No
even this
back pay. So
Right.
if the shutdown goes into December, they're not going to back pay. Okay. So yet another reason I would say the Democrats should just fund the government however the Republicans want, because they're the stinkers here. Because if it goes into November and into December and then people still haven't received it, the Trump administration is not going to pay it back. But if they fund the government right now, in theory, I believe the benefits would go out to the people who haven't received them. Really quick, stay with us, Shannon. I want to hear more from you. I have an opinion on this, but clearly you're receiving food stamp benefits, EBT, SNAP benefits, and so I want to hear that perspective more. Apostate Nate has been waiting patiently. His hand is up. We also have messages from Auntie McItballs over on Stereo we'll get to, but Apostate Nate, you're one of my awesome friends of the show who support me every month on Patreon. What's on your mind?
So Lee, I think I went back to this a program or two ago. Donald Trump imagines himself, and I mean he's president of the United States, as one of these supremely important leaders, and I think he wants to be looked at as a powerful leader, where the buck does stop with him. His own words. I want to say circa 2013. I verified this through like Chat GPT or something last show. But in his own words, a government shutdown is indicative of a weak president. And the Republicans, correct me if I'm wrongly, but they should have enough votes for the nuclear option. They can push their bill if that's true. So I'm not so sure that we can lay this completely at the feet of Democrats. I think both parties are to blame. And in this instance, I'm going to blame Trump the most because that's his own self-proclaimed standard. And I'll end.
Yeah, the nuclear option, I think we should just exercise it and get rid of the filibuster so we can do a simple majority vote. But the problem is that I think keeping it in a weird way would also be beneficial. So kind of different paths, different ideologies here, because it would be one part of custom that we haven't gotten rid of during the Trump administration. I mean, Democrats have had this decision on their hands. Republicans have had this decision previously, and now they have it now. Do we keep the filibuster or do we just go with a straight majority vote? I think we should just do it because it makes sense. I don't know that it's going to solve government shutdowns because you can imagine a situation where it would pop up again. But if you just do a simple majority, this one would go away. I'm not going to blame the Republicans on that because Democrats have also been very hesitant to pull that trigger. And this is something that we've dealt with before and hasn't been used to end a government shutdown. So I get the point you're making, and you can blame Republicans for that, but I'm still solidly placing all the blame on Democrats, especially with all this. I mean, Democrats, if they wanted to, could end this basically now, and they're not. And I get Shannon's perspective of, hey, I'm for what the Democrats are asking for. But clearly this is getting to the level of ridiculousness that it wasn't at 2 weeks ago, and it was pretty high on the ridiculous meter. It's even gone higher north. So I'm still blaming the Democrats here. Shannon, your hand is up. I assume you have a different perspective. Once again, Shannon was in the Beverly Hills rehab clinic, was sent home, and now she's at home. She has less care than she probably needs. She luckily got her food stamp benefits because apparently in Connecticut they sent them out, but now they're trying to figure out if they're going to be held responsible for that money, plus some other negative consequences that I believe the Trump administration is threatening states with now if they don't undo any SNAP benefits they've already sent out. So Shannon is in not a great position right now, but it's great to have her on the show. What more thoughts do you have to add, Shannon?
No, I don't blame the Democrats because they tried to pass just a SNAP funding bill and a military pay bill, and Democrats wouldn't even bring it, or Republicans wouldn't even bring it to the floor. So no, it's not on them, and it's the president's job and Congress and to sit down and negotiate. That's what they're there for, and keeping them out on vacation for the last however many weeks is ridiculous. They have
So
control
yeah,
of all
you
three.
tweeted this
Yes, they
article
need 5 Democrats
from the
votes, and
Hill.
if you need that, you compromise, and they're refusing to do that. So it's straight out the GOP.
Well, the Democrats are also refusing to compromise. I mean, the shoe can be on the other foot.
No, they tried to pass a clean bill, just SNAP benefits, and they won't even GOP
Oh,
won't even
okay.
bring it to the floor.
Okay. So that's what this Hill article is, right? So let me read
Yeah,
from
yeah,
that
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
So previously they did not, but I guess this is the update you tweeted. I've had it up for the last several minutes on my video stream. Didn't get to it yet, so let me do that. This is dated from 6 days ago, something like that, the 3rd of November. Senate Republicans nixed an attempt by Democrats to pass a resolution that aimed to fully fund supplemental nutrition assistance programs, so SNAP benefits, on Monday after those funds dried up over the weekend amid the government shutdown. Hey, from Oregon, Senator Jeff Merkley attempted to pass a non-binding resolution. Oh, this is not real, Shannon. Non-binding resolution via unanimous consent that would call on the Department of Agriculture to fully fund SNAP benefits for the month of November to the tune of $8 billion. However, that effort was nixed by Republicans as they objected, arguing the simple way of ensuring those benefits go out to 42 million recipients is by reopening the government. So, okay. They oppose this, but it wasn't real, Shannon. So I'm still saying the Democrats are the
What do you mean it
ones
wasn't real?
that are just as guilty as the Republicans on not wanting to compromise here.
What do you
It
mean it
says
wasn't
it's
real?
non-binding. It says to
Correct.
pass a non-binding resolution. If they had passed this, it wouldn't have done anything. It's just like a legal document that says we're asking you to do this and we have a majority. It wouldn't have funded anything.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the other
Well,
point I
Shannon.
want to jump into
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Bjorn. Continue here. Yeah.
just in terms of like fault, like clearly the procedural move of the Democrats not voting could be laid at the Democrats' feet. But in the greater context of what's going on, in terms of like which party is overreaching politically, I don't think anyone is going to argue that it's not the Republicans who are doing the overreach. So like the Democrat base has been, and probably the middle, and even some of the right-leaning folks have been wanting some sort of check on the Republican power. And so if you look at the polls on this, the polls say that this is the Republicans' fault. Even though procedurally, yeah, sure, you could say it's the Democrats. But this is in response to all of the things that are going on. So in the full context of things, clearly the Republicans are the ones who are most at fault in this. And this has been the one thing that we've seen that has been substantive that the Democrats have done to try to put one little check on one little thing against the Republicans, and that they respond by withholding food from humans and children. And so I think from the greater context, I lay this fully on the Republicans' doorstep.
Yeah, I think that's a better explanation that I can get behind. I still blame the Democrats, but if you look at the context, the Democrats want to help middle and poor income Americans through the continuation of subsidies, and the Republicans do not. and the Republicans are getting rid of things that I think most people who need them would be like, yes, please give them to us. So I get the point you're making, but literally, just to focus on what Shannon said, if you're talking about not wanting to compromise, I would say both parties are equally guilty when you look at the specific decision here. And I appreciate Bjorn giving us a wider context that is very useful. Let's jump over to stereo. We'll hear more from Bjorn. Bjorn, please throw in at any time. We'll hear from Apostate Nate and Shannon as well over on Twitter Spaces. We have some messages from Auntie McItballs, but let me hear now from Miss Smitty, Stereo Royalty over on Stereo. She's still with us on Stereo, so she can reply to our thoughts on her message. Here's Miss Smitty.
So Chuck Schumer offered a compromise. If the Republicans were willing to extend the ACA subsidies, then they would pass funding. But the Republicans are unwilling to do it. So I'm not sure why all of the blame goes to the Democrats when the Republicans are in control of all three branches of the government. It would seem to me that this is their shutdown. And efforts that have been made by the Democrats to try to work with them are just being flat out ignored.
So thanks for the message. Give us a reply to what I'm about to say. And if people have other thoughts, raise your hand, Bjorn, just start talking. What you just described is not a compromise. From what I understand, the Democrats have always wanted those subsidies to continue. I think that was what this government shutdown started over. There may be more, but that's like the meat on the bone of what the Democrats want and the Republicans don't want to give them. So if you say, well, they offered a compromise, they continue the subsidies and they'll fund the government, that's where we started. That's not a compromise. A compromise would be, okay, the Democrats are asking for less subsidies or no subsidies, but they want something else. So they're changing what they originally shut the government down over. Or a compromise from the Republicans would be like, okay, we'll give you some of these subsidies. You know, you give a little bit on both sides. What you just described, unless I'm incorrect, is what the government was shut down over. So that would not be a compromise. Give me another message and let me know why I'm wrong. Apostate Nate, Shannon, Bjorn, just throw in now if you have something that you'd like to add based on what we just heard. Yes, Bjorn.
Yeah, I'm ready. I would say a couple things. Like if you look at the history of the ACA, you know, if you look back when Obama was putting this into place, the original, you know, and what he stated, and this is also what I believe, was his dream was to have single payer health care. And that's also what I think we should have. So the compromise was the ACA. This is the system that the Republicans agreed to, that they put into place. And also, like, you know, there was other things like the private option, or excuse me, the public option, where at the time they were considering allowing Americans to purchase Medicare as an option to one of the other things. And so that would have been a conceivable cheaper option than the ACA, bronze plan, silver plan, etc., which frankly suck in my opinion. But Americans could have purchased Medicare, and that's still an option that we could do. We could just buy Medicare, like, don't make it free, just make it purchasable. And that would, you know, save a lot of money. It'd be a lot cheaper than all the other Obamacare options, because what the Obamacare options are private health insurance companies. And so you're buying Blue Cross Blue Shield or Regence or Aetna through the exchange. And so we're paying these companies through this government program. And because it's so ridiculously expensive, the government has put these subsidies on. And that's been the case, because we know that universal health care through a private system is the most expensive way to cover everybody. And we're now reaping the negatives of that decision. So I think like while it may not be a compromise now to keep the subsidies going, that was the thing that was originally put in place when Obamacare was created.
So a couple things. I could be misremembering. So you're saying Republicans supported this, like all Republicans voted for this. That's my first thing when we're talking about Obamacare, which I don't believe this was the case, but I could be wrong. Second, the subsidies were never infinite. The subsidies, had a sunset date put in there, just like the Brady bill with was it 10 years or whatever it was back in the day with certain types of firearms. It was specifically put in there and then it was never extended. So I would disagree that these were supposed to be infinite. My third point, and then I want to hear your response, Bjorn, is that Democrats are not for a single payer option. They're not for buying in to government medical care. That's why we don't have it. They could have tried under Obama and they don't have balls. And so, of course, they did not. So I don't see that the Democrats are for what you just mentioned. Maybe Obama has mentioned at some point in the White House or after leaving the White House, that's what he would love to have, but he didn't fight for that. Bernie Sanders has fought for that for a very long time. So what do you think, Bjorn?
I agree with your last point. The Democrats have not pushed hard enough for this, despite there being, lots of American. If you look at the polls, most Americans do support a single payer system. It also is bizarre to me that the Republicans don't, because if you look at it, it's by far and away cheaper than what we currently have to our government. So from a financial standpoint alone, it is way cheaper. And if you look at like the effects in other countries, it's by far better. And so it's bizarre to me that they don't support it. The answer is why they don't support it is because they get funding from all the healthcare companies. So like the insurance companies are clearly way against this because they would go out of business. Which we're fine, like shutting down all sorts of businesses in this country, except for the ones that are really like making lots of money and like give us, lobbying funds, and we're like for that. So I think that is, part of the reason why. Also, I'll throw in the Democrats as well, because I'm sure they get plenty of funding from those insurance companies as well. But I forget your other two points. But I think,
Yeah. So, I mean, Republicans supported Obamacare. Like they were down with Obamacare and they said that these subsidies are going to last forever. Like that was their stance.
No, John Boehner was at the table. I mean, if you remember that the famous photo where like John Boehner and all of them are like sitting at a table and they were like crafting Obamacare at the table. They're all there at the table and working on it together. So, I don't remember what the actual ultimate votes were for any of it. But they were at the table and they were part of crafting it. And they were there and instrumental in some of those compromises going from what Obama wanted to kind of the skeletal Obamacare that existed or went through and it still exists today as the Republicans continue to chip away at it. And to me, this is just a further chipping away of a bill that they don't want now, even though the previous, generations of Republicans did support it. So, yeah.
And Republicans have, what is the running count on how many times they've tried to vote to appeal Obamacare? So whatever the initial support was for this grant compromise, they were very quickly like, no thanks. But I guess I'll answer my own question. I mean, the fact that the subsidies have to be continued rather than they just continue on their own shows us that this was never a guarantee. So again, I go back to Ms. Schmitty's comments. I don't think this is a compromise for Democrats to say, okay, you continue the subsidies and then we will fund the government, because the fact that they have to be continued shows that this is a new deal. And you can't just say, okay, well, you get something by continuing the subsidies. No, because they don't want to do that. And Republicans clearly don't like Obamacare. And I fault Obama. Obama was a god when he was elected. And if he had fought for single payer the way that Bernie Sanders has, and we know he would have as president, we might actually have it. So this is a fault of Barack Obama bending over backwards to appease Republicans rather than have some Trump-esque cojones and being like, we are going to do what we want to do. And in this case, what we want to do is help Americans and save money. Now, you're absolutely right. Republicans could embrace single payer as a cost saving measure, the way that it's cheaper in every other advanced developed nation to have healthcare, a national healthcare system for everyone, than it is here. We pay the most for healthcare, and I know you can go into a lot of these benefits, Bjorn, that you have in your back pocket than any other advanced nation, and we have the worst healthcare outcomes. So this is something Republicans could embrace. They could have embraced recreational marijuana as this is a right of people, just like smoking and drinking. They could have embraced marriage equality, gay marriage, by like, who's the government to say you're going to decide who marries who? They could have done all these things. The problem is they usually do not. So Bjorn, you want to reply?
Child here, so I think the other person I want to throw under the bus on the Democrat side, we're actually no, thank you, buddy. No, thank you. We're the Blue Dog Democrats, because they were actually, we did have a pretty good majority that first 2 years for Obama, and it was the middle Democrats that really kind of put some stop on, mainly over like abortion and other things, but they actually like were the Joe Manchins of back in the day that were really blocking a lot of that progress. So yeah, but I agree. Like, I think like we need to like take a page from like Zoran Mamdani, and we need to like embrace socialism a little more, because clearly the people are ready for it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about New York City's new mayor. We could get to that on today's show. But yeah, that's another big development. Affects less people than EBT. But boy, there are a lot of people in New York who have a new mayor coming here down the pipe. Shannon, you've been waiting patiently. You're at home. You have received your EBT for the month of November late, but you did receive it from Connecticut. Trump is now saying states need to undo such payments or they will face dire consequences. What do you think?
Well, I just looked at, well, my governor, I guess, came out earlier today and said the state funded the rest of the benefits, like they did the partial benefits, and then the state funded the rest of the benefit to get your full benefits in my state. I mean, I know Virginia did it. I know DC did it like before. And they had fully funded it at the New Mexico, I think. And some partially funded it or sent money to food banks. But yeah, I guess what Governor Lamont is saying is that they took partial from the USDA and funded the rest from the rainy day fund in my state.
Or at least what they thought they were going to get from the USDA, because then we had the stay, and now the
Right.
government under the Trump doctrines are
I know
now
he-
saying, well, now you can't.
Sorry, he just said it today, so this was after the Supreme Court. I don't know what's going to happen, but I guess we'll see.
My guess is worst case scenario, Connecticut just has to flip the bill for this month, and hopefully the government shutdown ends and funding resumes. But maybe Connecticut will just be paying for the month of November without federal assistance, unless they withhold federal assistance going forward somehow as penalty for Connecticut and other states that are not undoing what they did when they thought what they were doing was legal under a ruling from the judiciary. Let's jump over to stereo. We're going to hear from Auntie Mickett
The reason I had-
How y'all doing today? Yeah, I agree with you. You know, that's been Trump's whole idea was America first, but everybody fought him about it for the longest time. But now these benefits are shut off, and now we've got America first. That's just weird to me. But you know, the president doesn't have authorization to not fund SNAP, right? That's up to Congress. Congress is the one that funds SNAP. Now he can make suggestions to not fully fund it or whatnot, but that doesn't mean that Congress has to accept it, or give more, give less, or whatever. But you also know that it's not Trump or the Republicans that's keeping the government shut down, right? It's the Democrats that have voted 13 times to keep it shut down, right?
Yeah, with that last point, I completely agree with you. I think I know we have differences of opinion here with many people who are joining me on the show, but I fully blame the government, or rather the government shutdown on Democrats because they're the stinkers. But to get to your point, Auntie Megan Balls, thanks for the message. We'll get to another one of yours here in a bit. Yeah, I mean, Democrats fought Trump on America First. Oh, it's racist. It's all this other stuff. Now, the problem is that Trump's America First does not mean helping homeless Americans. It does not helping. It's not about helping poor Americans any more than they're already being helped, which is very small compared to the rest of the developed world. It's not about helping them, even with money that we have designated for this very purpose during a government shutdown with EBT. It's not about that. It's mostly for helping rich Americans and corporations, which the Democrats also stand for. That's the problem with our two parties, but the Republicans stand for it a lot more than Democrats do. They're both not great, but the Republicans are much worse on helping America. So if Trump had actually been America first, and that means we're going to increase funding for homelessness and EBT and all this other stuff, then maybe that would have been a pill the Democrats could have swallowed. I don't know that they would have because they just have Trump derangement syndrome. He's a crazy guy, but like some of his ideas, if a Democrat proposed them, they would be for. I mean, Biden continued to build the wall as president, right? So you have a point there. It's not, I would say, 100%, but you do have a point. Before we go to more messages on stereo, does anybody have something they want to raise? Bjorn on stereo, or Apostate Nate or Shannon over on Twitter? I think I saw Shannon jump in right before we played the message.
I did. Oh, it was just the reason I raised my hand was 63 times they've tried to repeal the ACA. That's what I'm doing. I was getting back to, because you said how many times, so it was 63.
Yeah, so certainly buyer's remorse. I believe there was not enormous Republican support. They may have been there crafting it. I don't think they voted for it overall, but I could be wrong. Whatever the case is, quickly after it was passed and they had the power to do so, and even when they didn't have anything that was going to go anywhere, they just repeatedly tried over and over and over again, dozens of times, to repeal the Affordable Care Act. And once again, to look at the subsidies, these are not infinite. They do not last forever. They were never designed to be that way. Maybe they're an essential component that needs to be there. But I fault Obama. He did not fight for the health care that we deserve, that people in the richest nation in the world should have, just like all the other developed nations, or just people in general, you can argue. He didn't fight for that. His beginning point was compromise, and that's the terrible legacy of Obama. And that's why Bernie Sanders never became president, because he's the opposite of that. He would have truly believed to his dying breath he will fight in ways that he can, because he's not a president, to give health care to every American. And that's once again the problem with America First with Trump. It's rich Americans first, or rich Americans, just them, right? He's not getting our military out from around the world. He's America First plus all these other things that he's just going to continue doing like any Republican would. Anybody else want to jump in before we get to some more comments? All right, let's get to some more comments on stereo. Let's hear from Santana again.
What are you talking about? You know, if Obama even tried to do anything that you're saying right now, that it would never went through. Let's not do this, bro. Please, come on. Come on. Let's not do it, bro. You know, this president has had more leeway than any other president you've ever seen in life. I don't care what he do. He can say, I'm going to take a shit on national television. They're going to approve it. Come on, stop it, please. Let's not.
And do you know why he can? Because he wants it more. Because Obama is a pussy. Obama was a god when he was elected. And his normal move with Republicans was we start from a compromise and then we compromise further and further and further. Obama could have accomplished just as much, as in like done whatever he wanted, as Trump is continuing to do, if he had decided to do so. Instead, Obama was a middle of the road Democrat just like Hillary Clinton, just like Joe Biden, and as the first black president, wanted to not have any real controversies. Now, certainly, Tan Suitgate was real. Bowing to the Japanese, was it emperor, prime minister, whatever it was? That's on someone's book. I think it's called like Unfit to Serve, and it's a picture of him bowing. So, like, those controversies existed, but Obama didn't have like a single real controversy of his 2 terms, other than the fact that he was full of shit and never fought for Americans like he promised he would. No, you're absolutely wrong. I appreciate the comment. Continue to disagree with me, but you are 100% wrong. Obama could have done anything he wanted to do, and he chose to be a middle of the road Democrat who continually bent over backwards to compromise with Republicans. You know who doesn't compromise with the other side almost ever? Donald Trump. Trump has shown us that the president can have about just as much power as they want if they're willing to take it. Barack Obama was not willing to do that. He wanted to be a respectful first black president, and mostly I think people probably would give him that. But if you read between the lines, not liberal. Barack Obama can say whatever he wants about what he wanted healthcare to be like. He didn't really fight for it, did he? Democrats still don't fight for that, do they? Yeah, that's why I know I'm right. But I appreciate the argument. Try to convince me to the other side. We'll keep taking messages over on stereo. Yes, Shannon, your hand is up.
I'm with you, Lee. I mean, he had the supermajority for 8 months, 7 months, something like that, that they could have pushed through anything, and they didn't. So, I mean, I love the ACA. I think they did a great job with it. For what I mean, it could have been better, yes, but it's better than what we had. The protections were better than what we had.
Yeah, I mean, pre-existing conditions don't matter anymore. They had all the subsidies. They opened up a marketplace with somewhat fixed prices, more than we had, and restrictions on what what's the opposite? Well, restrictions on what insurance companies had to provide. So, like, you know, pre-existing conditions wasn't a thing. I think they increased the time that children were under their parents' insurance until 26. Like, a lot of good came out of that, but that's like, you know, if you hire someone to do anything, or someone tells you they're going to do something and then they don't do what they could have done, but it's still better than it was. Like, hey, fix my roof. It leaks a lot. Well, it leaks less now. Great. Is it still leaking? Oh, yes. Didn't you say you wanted to fix my roof? Oh, I totally did. That's how I got this job. I promised I was going to fix your roof. And what did you do? It leaks less than it used to. That's what Obama was. That's what Biden is. That's what Hillary Clinton would have been if she had won the Electoral College rather than just 3 million or so more votes than Donald Trump. That's what the Democratic Party is. But with the 2-party system, I'll take a leaky roof that's less leaky compared to whatever the comparison would be for the Republican guy who comes in and fixes it, right? The Republican guy probably only wants to fix rich people's houses, right? Hey, let's go over to Jeff Bezos' house and make sure his roof doesn't leak. Like, that's a fair comparison, right?
Yes. I was very, I still voted for Obama twice, but it disappointed me that they didn't do more with the supermajority they had, even though it was only for, I think it was like July to January or something, when Al Franken came in and made it 60, and then when Ted Kennedy died from Massachusetts, and they got a Republican in January, I think.
And Al Franken, he's not in Congress anymore. What happened to him? Oh, the Democrats said he couldn't be in Congress anymore. Oh,
That was stupid.
Okay.
That was stupid.
Oh. But then Joe Biden had a credible sex assault allegation from a former staffer, and nothing happened. Oh, so the Democrats learned their lesson. Oh, okay. But they didn't learn it fully, because that sort of stuff still happens, just maybe not as much or not as bad as it was with Al Franken. Okay. Huh. I learn a lot with conversations with myself. Okay, keep raising those hands. Bjorn, you can throw in at any time just because we're limited over on stereo. No hand raising. Let's hear from Auntie Make Balls on stereo.
Also, the whole deal about the insurance credits, the healthcare credits, was designed to expire this year by the Democrats. It's not something that Trump took away. It was designed to expire. They didn't think that he would be in office at this time, so they could, renew these credits, and give these insurance companies $40 billion to continue to raise their stock in their companies anywhere from 400 to 1,100% since Obamacare has been in place.
Yeah, so again, we've had this conversation on some recent shows. A lot of stuff with funding in the government ends, and it has to be refunded or it goes away. The ban on assault weapons, whatever it was for 10 years, it was passed with it ends at the end of 10 years, and maybe we'll do it again, and they didn't do it. I'm not going to blame any specific party for just in general, because I think that's just kind of how it works in our system. But once again, with Barack Obama and the supermajority, and I would just say his 2 years, or rather his 2 terms for 8 years total in the White House, he didn't fight for people the way that his campaign promised he would. And so maybe they could have done things differently, and that would have been an outlier because stuff is funded and then it has to be refunded again. But whatever the case, they're not for single payer. The Democratic Party has never been for single payer. And this is the system that we get when we elect people like Barack Obama rather than Bernie Sanders. So thank you for the comment, Auntie. Feel free to give us some more. Any follow-up to that from Bjorn, Apostate Nate, or Shannon?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk about the Obama presidency, as a whole. But I think that, like you said, the amount of like negativity for every single thing that Obama did, from a tan suit to whatever, like he was very constrained by public opinion. And, like you said, no major scandals, nothing too crazy happened. And, passed some, healthcare reform, which had lots of good things in it, although it was a little bit of weak sauce. But he did pretty good job by most people. You can say that he didn't go far enough, which was your argument. But what was the American public's reaction to his presidency? Electing Donald Trump. And so even the little bit that he did, the American public's response was, wow, that's way too crazy and liberal for us. We're going to invent someone who's going to flip the table over. And so while I think that like what you're saying is true, and we all wish Obama would have been further. I wish he would have smashed the table over, etc. I was a Bernie guy as well, but that didn't happen. And I think that, he's a shrewd politician, and he probably got as much through as he thought he could do with that. And you can say that's weak sauce. But again, the American public overwhelmingly voted out Hillary Clinton. Maybe you can say that's more a problem of Hillary Clinton being a bad candidate than it is a response to Obama's presidency. But at the same time, they could have continued along that path, and they did not. And I was, had my champagne ready to pop after Hillary was going to get elected, and it went unpop. I'm very sad about that. But that's what the American people chose, was a big move away from Obama's crazy, terrible leftist politics, and they went with Trump.
Yeah, you raise a really good point. So thank you for bringing that up. Obama wanted to have a second term, and Obama wanted to have his second term followed by another Democrat. Probably not Hillary. They don't seem to like each other, but another Democrat. And if it was Hillary, all right, so be it. Let's get her in the White House. Keep Slick Willie out of the White House. He's not allowed back in. But Hillary, bring in your purse with your hot sauce, your basket of deplorables, and welcome home. So I get the point you're making, but when you talk about the swing from Obama to Trump, I think you're actually also making the case for me that I just did. You bring up all these good points, but we went from Obama to Trump and things flew to the other side, complete 180. But at the same time, a lot of the core good that came from Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, like kids stay on their parents' insurance till they're 26, I believe that's the year. Pre-existing conditions, you no longer are able to keep people off healthcare because of that. And I'm sure there's more things, but those are the two big ones that I remember. Guess what? They're still here. Now, the subsidies, okay, that's a core component, and that's what the government shutdown is now. And once again, I already argued, well, that's how the government works. A lot of things you just have to keep funding and passing. It doesn't just stay for the rest of the country, right? So I can sort of give Democrats a bit of a benefit there. But if they had fought for more, just imagine what we would have had enshrined that didn't go away this entire time, despite, was it 60 times or whatever, Shannon, that Republicans voted to appeal the Affordable Care Act. So if Obama had actually cared about Americans to the level that his campaign told us he did, and brought all the change that his campaign told us we could expect and would see with his not only 2 terms, but the supermajority that lasted for, was it 8 months or whatever? Just imagine what they could have enshrined that would still be here. I guess maybe that's a more targeted takedown of Obama than what I said before, is that, yes, he wanted to get reelected. He wanted to have a Democrat. Clearly that didn't happen. So he miscalculated. That's another big fault of Obama. But at the same time, if they had accomplished more, just imagine how much more we would have. Do you disagree, Bjorn?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a hard point to argue with you. Like, if you push the goal line further, then clearly you're going to have more whenever the other side takes over. But I just still think that Obama was limited in terms of what he could do, or at least of what he was willing to do. I guess that's the point is that you're making, is that he's not willing to be Trump, and I'm glad that. I mean, I think that if Obama was Trump or acted like Trump, I think, I don't think I would support him as much. I don't think the way that Trump is governing is respectable. So I like the way that Obama governed more, even if he fell short in areas, because I want a president to govern with honor, with respect, with, looking at tradition and all the things that, we should be doing. This is what I want the Republicans to do. This is what I want the Democrats to do. We shouldn't be having a system where, all we're doing is, putting the other people down, saying, this is either the savior moment or like hellfire. There is options in between. And I think we are like in the bizarro land where it's either feast or famine, where it's either good or evil, or black or white. And we need to move towards like the Obama style of governing, where like Republicans and Democrats can talk to each other again. Because I think what we're doing now is untenable. It's bad for America. It's bad for everyone. So I don't think that he should have governed more crazily like that.
You don't think we need a Democrat Trump? You don't think that that's the answer? Like, I would argue it's changed, and this is the new normal. I don't know if anyone from either party is going to be able to do it like Trump. Once again, I think what he brings to the table is so much more effective in the political sphere, especially when you have the highest level of political office than in the business world. I think the results speak for themselves. But if you push aside damage to America and like credibility and stuff like that, which I think you can repair just through sheer will. Like I think Trump showed, he puts our allies down and then they come groveling back. That's a simplification, but I think the point I'm trying to make is getting across. Don't we need like a Gavin Newsom to come in and just swing his balls around and do whatever the hell he wants? Like, don't we need that? Isn't that the new normal? Isn't like what they did in California, Bjorn? Let me give you a solid example. So Texas and maybe some other states, they're gerrymandering out the wazoo to try to stack Congress. And so you can't stop them. You're not going to stop them with the Supreme Court. So what do? Have California do the same thing. Doesn't it have to be tit for tat now? Isn't that the new normal?
I think that, while I appreciate the thing that Newsom is doing, I think that it's sad that we even have to engage in this. I think that at least the bill of Prop 50 is that it's also temporary, and it's saying when you all fix your stuff, then that's going to revert back as well. So it's kind of a response to that. And while I think I appreciate the political move, I do not want that to be norm. We shouldn't be like gerrymandering. Like it seems like a very like dystopian way to govern, where we have to like gerrymander ours because you gerrymandered yours. How about we get rid of gerrymandering? Doesn't that seem like the better option, which is like the middle and like better option of this? So no, I don't think that we should have a liberal Trump. I think we need to have someone who comes in and fixes all the broken stuff and says, hey, we're going to like govern more normally and more sanely, and less wild than you all are doing. And I think that, the American people can decide. I mean, I think, a good example is the tariffs, like Trump uses the tariff like bluntly, like ham-fistedly, and says, all right, we're going to, tariff you, tariff this, change his mind like hourly. And while he at least publicly says that they're coming back groveling and doing all this stuff, what's really happening is that those countries are no longer looking at us as a trusted trade partner. And they're saying, wow, with how crazy and chaotic it is over America, we can no longer rely on them anymore. So let's start building our own coalitions outside that excludes the United States. And so the effective effects of Trump's chaotic tariff policy, while in the short term, he may think he's winning and we do have a lot of money, so people are going to come and play ball with us. But people are also realizing that they shouldn't be putting all their eggs in the United States basket, which is bad for us. It's probably better for the world if they're not all reliant on us and our trade and etc. But I think it is bad to rule chaotically, because a chaos breeds more chaos and only puts us in a weaker position.
Final reply, and then I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and then we'll get to some more messages on stereo as well as Apostate Nate. Haven't heard from you for a while, but sometimes you get busy on your end. Feel free to raise your hand. Would love to hear from you. Would love to hear more from Shannon. If we disagree that Democrats need a Trump, I would say that's the new normal, and that's what we should aim for. But if we disagree about that, my question to you is, if you have a Trump, and if you start getting that from Republicans, whatever that can be, because no one's going to be Trump like the original, right? Diet Coke, not quite as good as Coke. Coke Zero, it's getting there, but Coke, that's Coke. Trump is Trump. If Republicans keep giving us a Trump and Democrats keep giving us an Obama, how can you hope to compete over the long term? Like, if you knock down my Lego tower, if that's Trump, and then I start to rebuild it in a thoughtful and democratic way, not the Democratic Party, but just a democratic way in general, and then you come in and just knock it down again, how can we compete? Right? It's like running a race with your legs tied together, and the other person is just sprinting down. How can you ever hope to compete with that? So, like, isn't it just like a simple mathematic calculation that we have to have a Trump in the White House of our own? Otherwise, we're always going to be digging out ourselves from a hole.
Yeah, I think it depends on like what your kind of overall strategy is. What I guess I would propose is someone comes in and cleans up all the stuff, puts in something that I love and dream about, like a single payer health system, puts all the things into place.
Yes.
And then
I have stunned Bjorn with my intellect. Oh, there he
did you hear that? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Sorry. Hello? Can you hear me?
love single payer healthcare, all that.
Yes.
Did I lose
Sorry.
you?
I think
1 second here.
your audio is
Over on stereo, are you guys hearing me? I'm sorry, over on Twitter Spaces, are you guys hearing me? I'm seeing that my voice is carrying.
I can hear you.
I think maybe over on stereo it's not. Okay, Bjorn, just go ahead and start talking. I'm going to stop talking. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay. Basically, my point is, what I would advocate is to go in and clean up as much stuff as possible, as much stuff as we can. Put in some nice, important things like single payer healthcare. Love to have that. And once you've decided you've got all the things in that you can, then you say, all right, we're going to now get rid of as much potential tyranny as possible, and we're going to cut off our own power, meaning we're going to reduce the power of the presidential branch, because clearly it's been abused. And so we want to strengthen things that promote democracy and democratic institutions, and get rid of the things that promote or allow for tyranny. And so I think anything we can do in this country to give the power, move it away from individuals and oligarchy and move it towards the people, is what we should be fighting for. We should say, hey, let's break that iron triangle. Let's get rid of lobbyists giving money to people. Let's get rid of, corporations as people. Let's get rid of all of that stuff and move back to people vote for representatives and they go and vote for them. And there's not all this other BS. Like, they're in the medical industry, you can't even get a pen from a thing because of the way that it's viewed, that like someone giving a pen to you is going to somehow make your the way that you're a physician or whatever, or a nurse or whatever, influence the way that you prescribe. Let's do the same thing to Congress. Don't allow any pens to give given to them. I know that's the way it works, but what they should be listening to is the people and not the oligarchs and the money.
I'm going to claim a mostly victory on this. I hope you can hear me, because you're basically saying the Democrats need a Trump for a limited amount of time, and then they kind of shut down the power of the presidency, which, I guess that's what I was advocating for. That's just the new normal. That's the new normal for the next several terms or whatever. If Democrats could win an election, I know the midterms or whatever, with the midterms, they just happened. And the Democrats made some victories, but we'll see what happens with the White House. So what you're basically asking for is a Bernie Sanders in the White House, which would be a Trump on the left. So I'm gonna go ahead and say we had an Obama compromise there, everybody. Shannon, I see you dropped in. You're back as a listener. Just go ahead and request to speak. I hope it's still working over on Twitter and you can hear me. It looks like it is. I can see my visualization of my audios and it appears to be working. Let's go back over to stereo in the meantime. And we got a bunch of messages from Santana. Let's start hearing them. I think he disagrees with me.
Let's not do this, bro. Come on, bro. He's not a pussy. They wouldn't pass anything that he wanted to do. If you know politics, you know it. You know they wouldn't pass anything that he wanted to do. Everything that he wanted to do, it was shot down. Stop it. How are you answering a question? You talking, but no one's able to answer your questions. That's the craziest thing. It's like me saying something, then me putting my hand up, and then me clapping my own hand, giving my own self a high five. Come on, brother.
Hey, giving yourself a high five. That sounds like Democrats, everybody. Hey, tip your waitresses, everybody. Try the veal.
Let's not talk about allegations. Please don't do that. All I hear is Republican talk, brother. If you're going to speak from a point of view Please speak from a general point of view that views both sides, not just from where you're coming from. That's what I call filling a hot balloon up, bro, and busting it yourself, bro. Come on, stop this.
I am a lifelong Democrat. I do not support Trump, though I do not pretend that Trump cannot have a good idea. I have voted for multiple Democratic presidents. Well, I voted for people that didn't. I voted for Hillary, so she should have been president. She won the popular vote, just the terrible electoral college system. Um, you know, voted for Biden. No, sorry. I would have voted for Biden, but I voted third party. Yeah, I said no more. I'm not playing this game. I voted third party. But if I have to vote for a Republican versus a Democrat for the White House, I can't imagine supporting a Republican unless the Democrat is just, if we had like a middle of the road Republican, hard to imagine that would happen. But if we did and the Democrat was terrible, oh, no. I voted for Biden. I did not vote for Kamala. Yes, I voted for a third party. I wouldn't vote for Kamala because she was a terrible candidate and I knew she was going to lose. So there we are. Let's hear some more messages over on stereo. We got a lot of them. Santana went a little crazy. So Santana, if you're still over there, I err on the side of my Patreon supporters. That's just how I run my show. You can agree, you can disagree, but that's how it works. So if you support me over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate, your voice messages go in front of other people's. You can join me as a co-host over on stereo. You can join me over on Twitter Spaces. It's a little easier. But yeah, that's just how the show runs. I get to comments when I do. I try to get to them as quickly as possible. Clearly, I wasn't getting to them as quickly as you would have liked. I apologize for that, but we're hearing from you now. Let's hear more from Santana.
Give Obama the same power that Trump has right now. Give him the same leeway that Trump has right now to do the things that he want to do. And we would see where the world would have been. Let's think about this, right? I'm not even going to go into it because, yeah. And I was a Bernie man as well, but we knew Bernie wasn't going to happen. Wasn't going to happen. Wasn't. Just don't make sense for that to happen. It sounds about right. It feels about right, but it's not right in today's people's eyes. I'll say it like that.
Yeah, well, the reason Bernie didn't happen is because, oddly enough, the Republican Party is much more Democratic than the Democratic Party. Trump came in, people opposed him like no other when he got the first nomination and got in the White House. And you know what? They just did a math calculation and they said, oh, no, it was a straight math calculation, no superdelegates. And they said, well, he's our guy. That's what it is. And then eventually, because he's Trump and made people afraid of him, they folded under him. And we have our current situation. The Democrats, they fought Bernie at every opportunity that they had. And then when they, quote unquote, fixed the superdelegate problem, it wasn't out there. They were just less powerful than they were before. It was still an issue. And Bernie Sanders was opposed by Elizabeth Warren, even though they were the closest candidates. They shared many of the same views. You can chop that up to personal differences. You can chop that up to whatever you want. But the Democrats fought Bernie Sanders, and that's why it made sense, but it didn't happen. The Republicans, oddly enough, when they choose their presidential candidate, it's a much more democratic process. It's just people. Republicans, I believe, don't do crazy caucuses either, where you flip a coin and Hillary wins. They just take a vote. So that's why Bernie Sanders, I'm glad we're both Bernie Sanders supporters. Congrats on picking the right candidate. It could have happened. The Democrats just made sure that it was very unlikely. So, yeah, that's the truth on that. Shannon, you're back with us. You're a listener. I'm just going to go ahead and try to invite you. I don't know what's going on over on your side.
It keeps freezing on me. Sorry.
Oh, hey. All right. Sorry. So it says you're a listener, but you clearly can speak. So, oh, no. Now it says you're a speaker. So Shannon or Constantine or Bjorn, anybody want to throw in now? Shannon, take it away.
No, I mean, Twitter just keeps freezing on me. That's why I had to back out and come back in. That's why I was.
I have your.
Yeah, I was a Bernie person too.
Bring up one of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a Bernie person too, and what they did to him was outrageous, and it just, but I still voted for Hillary and Kamala. So, because we would not be in the boat we have now. But I also don't think that. Do you think MAGA has another one in the wings when Trump goes away?
Yeah, no one will be like Trump, but the next Republican president, my prediction, I could be wrong. The next Republican president is going to be playing from the Trump rule book. They might not be playing the part as well. Who can, right? But they're going to be playing from the Trump rule book, which has expanded what they can accomplish because they just don't care even less than they used to care, which is saying a lot for Republicans because they never cared too much as of late. But that's just been extended. And to go back to what I was saying to Bjorn, and I think we actually met in the middle, he said, okay, well, he didn't say this, but the summation of his words, in my opinion, were, okay, we need a Trump on the left, and then they just need to fix the presidency and limit it. That's what I was asking for. We need a Trump on the left because this is the new norm in my mind. And so I don't think our Trump is going to be as effective as the actual Trump. I don't think the next Republican is going to be as effective as Trump. But that needs to be the norm. We just need to do everything we can to get a Democrat in the White House, and then they just fuck shit up. That needs to be the norm. To be honest, I don't care about our allies. Like, they can have their own coalitions. We can take the troops out of Europe. We can take the troops out of Asia. We can take the Marines out of Australia. I read sometime that we had Marines in Australia. And I'm like, why? What? Screw everybody else. America is for Americans. It never has been in my lifetime, and it should be. I'm a Democrat. I think that's what should happen. Let's get to, you tweeted this from Axios. I found a CNN politics article that says the same thing. The government
CNN,
shutdown might
I have a
be,
paywall on, so that's why I did the Axios one.
That's right, because you check CNN too much and they've cut you off. See what they do? See what happens with the liberal network? A deal has been reached in the Senate to fund the government through January 30th, and a major sign the shutdown is poised to end. This is according to a source familiar with the matter, so take it with that grain of salt. The chamber is set to vote tonight, and the source said there are enough Democrats to advance the plan. Did you find anything on the plan?
Yeah, it was on there, wasn't it? That they would vote for the ACA.
Let me refresh this. I couldn't find that, but let me try to do this. The deal has been reached. Okay. This is from 11 minutes ago. I think the deal reached is a little bit more updated. President Donald Trump told reporters today that it looks like the government shutdown is getting close to ending as a deal has been reached to fund the government through January 30th rather. There are enough members of the Senate Democratic Caucus to advance the plan and end the 40-day government shutdown, according to a source. The deal includes a reversal of Trump's firings of federal employees during the shutdown and provisions to prevent such actions in the future, according to the source. It would also ensure food stamps are funded through fiscal year 2026. So once again, they kick the can down the road. It's not just, well, we're going to have food stamps forever. This is how it works. A bipartisan Senate deal has been reached. At least 8 Senate Democrats have agreed to vote for the deal. So this hasn't happened. This is just all they're saying they're going to do it.
Yeah, they called them back in, so the vote has not been reached yet, but they're calling everyone in for a vote tonight.
As part of the deal, hey, this is the compromise that Ms. Smitty was asking for. As part of the deal, Senate GOP leaders have promised a vote on a bill regarding expiring enhanced ACA subsidies by the end of the second week in December. Well, okay, so we'll see what happens with that. The expectation is that the House and Senate GOP leaders will negotiate with Democrats on that bill in the coming weeks after the government is reopened. Are you seeing anything more advanced than that?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what time they're voting, but doesn't seem to have a time because they just called them back in. They don't know what time they're voting.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything more than this. If anyone else has any details, let us know. This is a developing story.
Yeah, I mean, I
Senator
saw this.
Bernie Sanders. Oh, I'm sorry, Bjorn. Yeah, take it away.
I saw like a tweet earlier from, or is a Blue Sky? I'm not on Twitter. That basically the compromise that was being floated was basically a vote on the Senate floor for the ACA. So it's not a true deal. It's not an extension of the subsidies. It's just a kind of a weak ass. We're going to extend it out and we're going to vote on the floor, which sounds like the weakest of compromises ever, in my opinion. But whatever.
Hey, that's what I was asking for. Picking one for the team, Democrats. Senator Bernie Sanders railed on the proposal being considered, warning that giving in now, quote, be a policy and political disaster. My own thought is that it would be a horrific mistake to cave into Trump right now. Essentially, if Democrats cave on the issue, this might also be a Bernie quote. Essentially, if Democrats cave on this issue, what it will say to Donald Trump is that he has a green light to go forward toward authoritarianism. And I think that would be a tragedy for this country. However, Senator John Fetterman, the resident kind of strange Democrat who has been breaking with Democrats and voting for the House passed short-term funding resolution. Well, hey, great job, weirdo. That's awesome. Go Fetterman. Said the shutdown, quote, has more than run its course. If we have the votes, it's probably going to be the minimum if it does. Our party could be overplaying its hand. I don't think much anything has been accomplished for the last 40 days, except a lot of chaos and a lot of upheaval. So, Shannon, what do you think about this? I would agree with Fetterman. I don't think anything has been accomplished. I would agree with Bernie Sanders, the great Bernie Sanders from the state of Vermont, that this has been for nothing. It's just caving into Trump now. And since this is about a vote on ACA subsidies in December that is just out there and could easily not take place, are you disappointed? I feel like you have to be disappointed with this because what have the Democrats gotten from 40 days of government shutdown and delayed SNAP benefits?
I hope they don't vote for it, but I guess we'll see. We've already gone 40 days. You might as well just keep the backbone. Don't. This is our problem: is that we don't fight on the same level. We don't, and it sucks. And we need our representatives need to. I agree with Bernie. We should not be capitulating to Trump.
So if this vote goes through, would it be fair to characterize this shutdown as a failure for the Democrats?
Yes, especially if even if they do vote on it in December, we don't have the votes for it. So what's the point?
Yeah, because it'll just be a vote. You have to hope that
Right.
they can make a compromise that the Republicans will vote for.
Maybe, but Trump doesn't deal. So we hold all the cards now and shutting it down at there and not getting what we want is, the loss of our backbone. We don't have it and it's stupid. Because come January, when that expires, I'm going to have to choose between food and, or medication because I won't be able to afford it.
Well, let me think here. Let me go back to this. So they said that the ACA subsidies will be voted on in December, but
Right.
I believe SNAP full food stamp benefits would be guaranteed to 2026. I read that, right?
That'd be fine, but I still wouldn't be able to afford my medication come January. Not with the
Oh,
extra.
because of
I'm gonna have
ACA.
to pay out for my plan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So no,
real
I am not
rock
happy
in a
about those
hard place
tickets.
position. The deal includes a reversal of President Donald Trump's firings of federal employees and provisions to prevent such actions in the future, according to the source. It would also ensure food stamps are funded through fiscal year 2026. So, a lot of food stamps coming our way.
I shouldn't say food and
Um,
medication. It'll be rent or medication.
oh yeah, because you'll have to pay. Yeah. Looks like food will be there. Um, I hate to do this, but I also really am going to enjoy doing this, Shannon. Do you recall? I think when this first started, there was a wise person. I forget his name. Who said the Democrats were to blame for the shutdown. They were not going to win. And this was not going to turn out well because just a lot of people were going to get hurt for no reason. I can't remember who said that, but
No, I didn't think they'd have the backbone to last this long. And then since we've lasted this long, we should last longer. I figured we'd be done in a week.
I'm not
But Pelosi
finding
is out
any more
too.
updates here, but I think this might be the most updated. I just keep hitting refresh. A deal has been reached to fund the government through January 30th, which is not so far out there. A major sign the shutdown is poised to end. Now, it does mention here Trump was going to limit air travel. So while the Senate works on a potential deal, the effects of the shutdown are still being felt across the country. The transportation secretary believes air travel will be reduced to a trickle ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday as airlines continue to implement FAA mandated flight reductions. There still is that Department of Agriculture order to stop issuing full food stamp benefits and to immediately undo any benefits, any steps that have been taken to issue assistance for the program in this month of November. It'll be interesting to see because it's such a mess now. So, like, does Connecticut get its full funding if the government is funded through January, and if SNAP is funded through the end of the fiscal year 2026? My guess would be yes. I think that's what that tells us. But boy, this has been a lot of unnecessary strife in the world of food stamps, right? Like how much money and how much manpower, how much person power has been utilized because of what happened over the last 5 or more weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading now that Rand Paul's a no for so they're gonna have to get more votes.
Oh, so
On Politico.
Republicans might kill this time. They'll be the stinkers. Oh, Bjorn, you're unmuted. Was that on purpose?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, we're in the car. We're about to leave and sign off here shortly. But I think the other point that I was going to make is I feel that this, unfortunately, was probably smart baseball by Trump because he knows that the Democrats were not going to be able to stomach people not getting food. And I think he's cynically aiming at the heart of the liberal with the EBT move, whether you call it cynical or whatever. I think it was effective because I think at the end of the day, I just don't think that people were going to be willing to watch people starve. At least the Democrats probably weren't for very long. So, yeah, sad but true, unfortunately.
So now time to do my victory lap and double down on Democrats need a Trump, because what happened? I think the Democrats caused, for okay, good reasons, but they caused the shutdown. They were the stinkers. I said they weren't going to win. It looks like they didn't win. I think Bjorn is 100% correct. The Democrats just couldn't stomach, for whatever reason. They thought they were going to be held responsible because of their conscience, whatever it was. They couldn't stomach. A lot of people aren't going to have those food benefits this month. Shannon was in the good group that got funded from Connecticut. We heard maybe that was also happening in some other states like California, but then who was going to pay for that? Could Connecticut keep that up indefinitely? What dire consequences might they face after those orders came out saying they had to undo anything they'd already done, or something bad would happen, perhaps to their future funding? And this is why Democrats have just lost this poker game. Trump's playing Moneyball. Democrats are trying to stick to tradition and, normal rules of the game. I don't feel good that I was right, but whoever it was, I can't remember who said it was going to turn out this way. Was it unknown brilliant mind? This is why the Democrats need to accept that this is the new norm and this is how we play ball. And that doesn't mean that they should have kept going with the standoff, because I think their position just wasn't going to work for them. Maybe that's what I should have said, is that I thought they were going to lose because they didn't have a good position where winning was possible. But when they do have power, they need to exercise it, and they need to exercise that power in ways they have never considered doing before. Because who does that describe? Republicans are the dreamers of the two parties. They dream of getting rid of the Affordable Care Act. They dream of getting rid of abortion access. Oh, wait, no, they did that because they wanted it to happen. They wanted it more. Democrats give us Obama. Republicans give us Trump. Is anyone surprised who gets more done? I'm not talking about democracy. I'm not talking about history. I'm not talking about quorum. I'm not talking about what's right. I am talking about results. I am done. If the Democrats don't want to become the left Trump party, then let them burn. And let's try to pick up the pieces from the ashes. I am done. Let's jump over to stereo. We're going to hear from, we'll say Sun, and then we'll hear from Jonathan, and we'll hear from Santana. Sun, take it away.
It's very ideal, but this government has pretty much allowed all goods and services to be handed off into the care of the private sector. So I understand that people getting, I guess more attached to the government is a healthy thing. But what if the representation in your government is actually not a representation? It's just merely billet, no different from what they ascribe to a so-called soldier within the military, just to fulfill a number, just to fulfill a position. This government is no longer beholden to the people like that.
It was a little hard to hear that. I tried to boost that as much as I could. But the general idea, the government doesn't represent the people. I have not felt for a very long time, probably since I was in high school or something, that the Democrats represented me. And I've been out of high school for a hot moment. So it wasn't yesterday. So like I said, if the Democrats don't want to have a nominee that's going to be a liberal Trump, let them burn. and let's start over with the ashes and see if we can create something better. I don't pretend that another party is going to rise, but Trump wasn't a Republican. And look at all the gains he's given Republicans. Now, okay, you have tariffs, you have all these other things, but Republicans are getting a lot of the things that they have wanted for a very long time. And then if you talk about the Supreme Court nominees, even more things. So maybe if only there was some great liberal person out there who had all these really good ideas for things that we all wanted. And if only we would let him come in maybe a third time, not the first time, not the second time, but maybe a third time that he could come in. Sorry, this person could come in, how dare I, and take over the party somewhat similar to what Trump did. Maybe that might invigorate the Democratic Party. Let's jump back over to stereo. I think we're going to wind down with the show. Let's hear from Jonathan.
Chevrolet. Dump is definitely the biggest pussy. What a bitch.
All right. It is what it is, everybody. I got to say what you will about Trump. He is no pussy. He might not be the most intelligent man out there. Might not be that easy to understand. But boy, did he play Democrats like a fiddle. This is a Trump victory. And let's hear from Santana one last time.
And I'll say it like this, and I don't like to say it with the race card or anything like that. Let's fucking keep it funky, bro. And let's not even do this. If Obama was a white man, it would be total different. Obama couldn't go in there and act the ass or do anything out of character like Trump is doing right now. It wouldn't be the same situation. It wouldn't be behind the same retainer, nothing. Obama had to go in there and be a model citizen. He had to do everything he possibly could, just so if there was ever another chance for a black man to get in office, they would have that same vision or the same respect for him like they would have for Obama. If Obama would have gotten there and been ghetto or been doing the same thing that Trump's doing right now, or talking back or doing anything that he's doing right now, no.
So I agree with you. Obama was under a microscope because of his race. I don't disagree. That's logical. Why would I disagree with that? At the same time, Obama received a lot of credibility and a lot of votes because he was black. So it's a double-edged sword. He is spoken of in ways because he was black, positively, and he was limited because of his skin color. But in the end, I think it goes back to what Bjorn and I were talking about. He chose to act the way he did. And he thought that that would lead to 2 terms. Hey, look at that. Correct. He thought that would lead to another Democrat after him. Uh-oh. So the way he acted, I don't agree with you that he had to go about things the way he did. As in not fulfilling his campaign promises and being a middle-of-the-road Democrat who started with a compromise with the Republicans, and then that turned into another compromise, so closer and closer to what the Republicans wanted, watering down everything, right? It's like a business transaction. If someone says, how much you want for this used car? If you start with a high price, that's your beginning negotiation. If you start with a middle price, you're going to end up lower, right? So it depends on where you start. Obama always started on the lower middle end of things. That was a choice. He didn't have to do that. I'm not sure that that was about him being black. The fact that they always had him under a microscope, yeah, certain amount of that, whatever amount of that was, certainly his race. I mean, you couldn't get away with it. Democrats gave him credit because of his race. Republicans probably gave him less credit because of his race. He still made his choices, and we are where we are today because he was not a liberal president. He didn't fight for the things that Trump fought for. So I agree with you. I also respectively, yeah, this is why the show has to end. I can't talk anymore. I also respectfully disagree with you on some of that. But thank you for the comment. Appreciate all the comments you have given us. Let's do a final update here, and then we will end the show. We're at about 2.5 hours. That's a good sweet spot. From CNN, Senator John Fetterman, one of the Democrats who has consistently voted in favor of Republicans' government funding bills, implored his party members Sunday night to stop overplaying their hand and to vote to reopen the government. It's like, take the win. You know, we had an election and it went well on Tuesday. You want to overplay your hand. It's like, America, people are not leverage, and it's not about a political game. He repeatedly has called the shutdown a disgrace and embarrassment. CNN is showing me one more update here. Here it is. The Senate is expected to vote on the deal to extend government funding beginning between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. CNN previously reported at least 8 Senate Democrats have agreed to vote for the deal, which was brokered late tonight between 3 former governors and the Senate Majority Leader and the White House. They're going to extend food stamps until the end of fiscal year 2026. The government's going to be funded until January. And then supposedly in December, we're going to have a vote on Obamacare, Affordable Care Act subsidies. But that's not an absolute. That's just an idea. Okay, big thanks to everybody who was part of today's show. Appreciate you guys. Follow me on Twitter for updates about my next shows, twitter.com/NEWZ debate. If you have a little bit of extra cash and want to support the program and have preferred status for your messages and be a live speaker on the program, everyone's welcome to leave messages, become a live speaker, but we hear more from my Patreon supporters, patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Want to give a big shout out to Bjorn, Better Vibes, Apostate Nate, Lola, Shannon, Sneaky Elbow, MC Funk, and I have this to memory. Noble Ron. Yes, Ron over on Twitter. He's big in Ireland. You can also join my Discord server. Check out my video simulcasts on Rumble and Twitch. All those links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. That's going to do it. Have a good rest of your weekend. I'll probably not have a show until next weekend. And until then, have a great one. Bye-bye.